If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK property market stat show is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I'm joined by a special guest. This week it is Iain White. We'll come to Iain in a second. Why should you watch this show? Well, the British are obsessed about the property market. And if we look at the newspapers, whenever the Land Registry chucks something out, it's all on the front page, the Halifax and the Nationwide. But I don't know if you're aware, but the Nationwide and Halifax data is looking at sales that took place 2 or 3 months ago. And the Land Registry is looking at sales that were agreed 8, 9, 10 months ago. We're looking at last week. We're looking at house prices, listings, fall-throughs, sales agreed, exchanges, and house prices. So if you want to know what's happening in the property market, buckle up in the next hour, and we'll go through the what's happening in the property market. This week, I'm joined by Iain White. Iain White used to be big in the game at Leaders Romans and set up by himself a number of years ago, and is considered a coach, a guide, a thought leader in the estate agency profession. What he doesn't know about estate agency isn't worth knowing. There's not many people I look up to in this industry, but Iain is certainly one of them. Thanks for joining me today, Iain.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Christian. What a lovely introduction. Thank you very much.
Bless you. I mean it all of it. I mean all of it. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at week 47 of the 2024 property market. So I'll just get up the calendar. And that was Monday, the 18th of November, all the way through until Sunday, the 24th of November. For anyone that's not watched the show before, it's roughly split up into two sections. The first half is that we look at the UK property market, and myself and Iain will digest everything and have a look at what's happening. The second half is where we look at a town or a city. And this week we are looking at the town of Banbury in Oxfordshire. Now, if you're from Banbury, you'll be all over that. But however, if you're not from Banbury, you might be tempted to switch off. However, what I would say is this: if you're an estate agent who is suffering from overvaluing by competitors and cheap fees and things like that, then we're going to be analysing the Banbury property market, looking at a superb piece of kit. And that piece of kit is something that you can actually purchase yourself. Now, I must stress, we're not here to sell that bit of kit. However, Iain and myself are pretty fanboys of it. And if you are performing better than your competitors, you could use this bit of kit. I know the phrase groundbreaking and seismic is used with abandon, but trust me, this bit of kit is amazing. Anyway, less of that. Let's kick off, Iain. Shall we go and look at the UK market this week?
Let's have a look, Christopher. Let's see what's happening in Statland.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so what we always do here is this. I just spend a minute or so just going through each and every stat, and then I go to Iain and ask him what he thinks. So the first off is that we start off with listings. And this week we have put onto the market 27,242 properties at an average listing price of 402,736. In terms of how that compares to other week 47s, it was 24,300 last year and 23,400 the year before. Obviously, we've not eclipsed the crazy year of 2020 where it was 30,000, but really we are quite close to that. Okay, let's go back. Year to date, we are on. Actually, I'll just pull it. It's not showing on the graph, is it, Iain? There you go. That's really reminiscent of me. We're at 1.624 million properties. Okay, I'll get that graph sorted.
That's listed for sale year to date.
Yep, a lot of properties, which, just to give you an idea, is 8.3% ahead of 2023.
Chris, do those stats allow for? I saw the information you sent me through about 1 in 15, and I saw it on the Facebook. Does that allow for properties that list with one agent and then the 1 in 15 that come on with somebody else, or could there be duplicates in amongst that, albeit marginal?
There could be duplicates. Just to give you some idea, the chances of a property. So 93% of UK house sales are with the first agent, 6.9% of sales are with the second agent. The chances of a property selling with the second agent is around 44%. This is sale agreed, not sale exchanged.
Yeah.
Versus the sale agreed on the first agent is near 59%. So that's what that's telling me is because the saleability has gone from 59 to 44, which is not massive. It's still a drop, but it's not massive. is that there isn't that many houses that swap agents, and then when they do swap agents, they don't tend to sell as much. Well, from 44% down to 15.
That's because they swap agents instead of change their price. Basically, is
Yeah,
we all know the reasoning.
yeah, I would actually say that estate agents are not particularly very good at at getting other agents' properties. It's interesting. What there is interesting though is this, Ian, is that there is a huge regional difference between that. The further north you go, the more swaps there are, and the more saleability there is.
Interesting. Shorter contracts, perhaps.
Don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think that's something that the stats can't tell, and that's where just experience and anecdotal evidence comes in. Um, let's just there you go. Let's go back to this. So the white line here is the number of listings on a weekly basis, and as we can see here, as with the white line, is trending downwards. So this week are on, as I said, 27,000, but we are on a downward trend. And but I would expect that because we are literally 4 weeks away from the C
Yeah,
word.
time of year, and as you can see, it's a downward trend that's been followed in each of the previous
Yeah.
however many years that graph's predicting. So, showing. So, I don't think we're doing anything other than is expected, other than the fact that the number of listings coming on is bigger than it has been, certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, and the number of properties remaining in the for sale drawer is quite significant compared to previous years.
Well, let's just have a quick look at that because we always have that to hand. Now, this particular graph shows the number of properties for sale. Now, it's always done on the last evening of the month. So this is 31st of October. Obviously, the number of stock available on the 1st of November. And we always do this. So we haven't got the November figures just yet. However, the figures that I am noticing is that there is a pretty significant drop between the end of November figures and the end of October figures. But if you actually just have a look in on this graph here, there is always quite a seismic drop between end of October and end of November of number of available properties. There's a big drop there. There's a big drop there. So the numbers I'm looking at the moment are around that 650 mark, but I only take it at the end of the month when I put it on this graph. Let's just remember, ladies and gentlemen, that the number of properties for sale compared to, say, 2008, where there was 1.2, 1.3 million properties for sale. So let's just take a slight pinch of salt with that. But you're absolutely right. There's more properties in agents' books. Interestingly, though, the saleability rate, Ian, which is how many properties you're putting on versus what they exchange, is almost identical to last year at about 53%, which is still a shocking number.
It is.
So there's more properties coming on the market and there are more properties selling. However, the percentage of houses selling is almost identical in terms of percentages.
Which, on the bright side, Chris, means the percentage of opportunity is the greatest it's ever been, which is how I prefer to look at it. Look at the opportunity.
You are so right there, Ian. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see why we get Ian back on a regular basis. What he doesn't know about estate agency is certainly not worth knowing. Right, let's move on and look at price reductions. So in terms of the number of properties that we're reducing, this is a monthly graph. And looking at the stats, it's going to be very similar. Might even be a slight upgrade this month, but we're reducing 13% of our stock a month at the moment, which I don't think is enough, but we'll ask Ian in a second. Number of price reductions, 17,629. And the average price of a property being reduced is 388,287. Any thoughts on that, Ian?
I mean, look, clearly properties are coming onto the market at optimistic prices, whether that be by the agent or the owner's hand. And then there is not the ability to repair that problem particularly quickly because only 53% go on to do anything. So we're either allowing the wrong instructions on our books, i.e. unmotivated sellers. Well, what's the point? That's just a cost and aggro. Or we're not giving those motivated sellers the correct advice. And I suspect there's a bit of both going on in the real world, which is stifling the size of the opportunity. Because if we could get to 65-70% of our stock selling, the under offer draws would be fine. The cash flow would be looking good. The owners would be looking at our business, estate agency industry as a more successful output. But when 1 in 2 people fail, we're not giving them a very. Why would they trust our opinion on the price?
It's interesting. There's a Facebook group called Property Advice Community on Facebook, and there's probably about 20 posts a day, and you'd be amazed the amount of people who say, and they fall into two camps. Now, the first camp is the bigger camp, much bigger camp is my property's been on the market 2 weeks, it's not getting any listings. And then when you question them on the valuation, all the agents said, well, they all said 300. I didn't think it was worth that, but I thought, well, I'll go with it. Okay. There are some, it's a smaller minority, probably about a third of the size of the other, who said, I just wanted to put my toe in the water and see. I've been on the market 3 weeks and had one viewing. I'm a bit disappointed, but I've put it on for 20 grand more than what the estate agent said. Well, you can't win with those people. But again, anecdotal evidence suggests that I hate to use the word fault, the cause is primarily if you went on these Facebook posts on the estate agent's shoulders.
Look, guys, if you're an estate agent watching this and you're not in those forums, then you're missing a point, because you need to see what the consumer is thinking and doing, not what you think they're doing. You need to see it for yourself. So, being plugged into those forums, as I know you are and I am, gives me incredible insight into how the consumer is reacting and responding and what they think, because it's often not alike. Same with fees. What the consumer thinks and does and how they act and behave is not aligned to how we think they do, and therefore the strategies we employ to overcome what we think they're going to do is causing us this problem in the first place. We agents bid for instructions, whether it be through fee or through valuation or both. In general terms, our industry doesn't give the correct advice. It gives the information it thinks it needs to win a listing.
Well, I mean, what is particularly interesting is that the EA Masters Best Estate Agent Guide survey came out.
Yep.
And this is a survey of 10,000 vendors, and without fail for the last 14 years, they've asked this question in so many different ways: multiple choice, out and out, and always only 16 to 17%, that number never changes, is looking for the lowest fee, irrespective of anything else. But the other 83 are there, and you've got to upset it. Now, if you ask an estate agent what only 1 in 6 people are fee sensitive, they would laugh at you. I think you're absolutely right, Ian. Fee is an issue in the agent's head. And again, it shocks me to bits that there are probably only 5 or 6 independent estate agency trainers to go between 13,500 estate agents who don't have a training department because if you can change your mindset, you will get a higher fee. The problem with fees in your head, not the vendors. Anyway, let's get off the soapbox, Ian, because I know you and I we can wax lyrical on our proverbial soapboxes. Sales agreed, and let's look at that white line, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that is truly tremendous. The UK property market isn't aware that there's problems out there. We're on 23,802. Just to give you an idea of where everything else is, I'll just pull that up. Hold on a second. We are on last year, it was 19,007. The year before, it was 17,900. In 21, it was 21,000. Obviously, in 2020, that's not on this graph, is 29, but again, that was a crazy year. But the average in 17, 18, and 19 was 20,875. So to be 15% ahead, someone hasn't told the UK property market that it's all doom and gloom out there. That's really
because it isn't doom and gloom, is it? There's a good level of stock available. Money is readily available. Headline interest rates are dropping. There was a bit of a pause where the cost of the various products was dropping. I know there's been a bit of an unusual lift recently, but generally speaking, interest rates are in a downward trend. Prices did ease off a little bit, so there was more value in the marketplace. So why? And there's money is readily available. Not only is the interest rate starting to come down a little bit, the headline rate, it's readily available if you've got a reasonably good, clean, good job with good income and good credit history and a half decent deposit. Then you are very mortgageable. Most people have got equity in their existing houses, so there is a very good market with which to trade in right now. What's the downside? It's not so busy that you're having to compete with every Tom, Dick, and Harry when you offer. It's not got such a restricted amount of stock that you've got to offer over the asking price. and you don't really get the house you want, money is readily available. So it's a good market. It doesn't surprise me. I think we're set really fair for a very strong start to next. And you've got the stamp duty factor as well, people trying to beat the stamp duty deadline. But I think we're set for a very good 4 or 5 months at the start of next year. Beyond that, not sure. But I definitely would be thinking to myself as an MD now, and if I was planning, I'd be thinking, right, it's going to be busier than I've been experiencing. It's going to be, I've got lots for sale. There's lots of buyer intent. I need to get myself ready to maximize how I turn my for sale drawer into exchanges.
Absolutely bang on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really are into your stats, there's a guy called Adam Lawrence who makes me look like a great, like a pupil at a primary school when it comes to property stats. And this guy, if you're really into your property data, then go to this website here. He produces a report on a weekly basis. And it looks at, really deep dives into the macroeconomics which are driving the property market. Some of it is about buy-to-let, which some of you might be interested in. But remember, the buy-to-let is just, it's all about property prices and obviously rents for the landlords. Just check it out. It's fantastic if you want to get a flavour of where interest rates and where property prices are going. Right, okay, so cumulative sales to date, we are on 1.167 million, which is 15% ahead of last year's figure of 1.014 million and 8.6% ahead of the average of 17, 18 and 19. The average price of a property selling, so this was the asking price when it went sale agreed, was 370,863. And those are the standalone weeks, which again look quite impressive if you don't mind me saying. We'll just have a look at the differences in price ranges and then we'll come to Iain to talk about the sales, as we said. The gap between the asking price of a property coming on the market and the asking price of a property sale agreed is at a really low figure of in single digits, but it always is. If we go back to late November, it is around that sort of figure. This is a cyclical movement. For anyone that's not watched the show before, we've got this that is the autumn uplift in the first and second week in September, where everyone in that's 3,000 or 4,000 properties coming on the market in London, in more southwest London and West London. That affects the national market. That is the impact of the London property market on UK stats, and then it just eases down. So again, in the new year, that gap will open up.
But for the masses, Chris, you could argue that chart should be produced with prime central London removed because, for the vast majority, they don't operate in that micro economy. They operate in normal land.
To be honest with you, I think that's a cracking idea, and I will just make a note of that now because that might be worth price difference. Great, that's a great idea. Without London, there you go. Anything on that before you want to move on to sales fall throughs? No. Okay, let's move on. Fall throughs. So fall throughs this week are at let me just pull the stats up. Are at 5,558. The fall through rate is at 25%. That little dip up there was the budget. You can see that the budget made no difference whatsoever. And again, a more of a long-term stat, which this is a monthly stat, but we mention it every week. We look at the fall through rate as a percentage of sales pipeline, which I think is a better stat because these stats here, especially the percentage here, the fall through rate is comparing sales agreed this week versus fall throughs, but there's no link hardly normally between the two. So we always have that one, but we also have that one. Anything else? Anything you want to talk about that?
Well, I think the interesting thing is we didn't get the normal doom mongers talking about their pipelines falling through or outside commentators talking about the collapse of the PRS as a result of the stamp duty piece. And other factors, but ultimately, it hasn't happened. It'd be lovely to know on a bigger scale than I could work with my existing clients whether there was a lot of renegotiation went on or whether it just was allowed to pass almost unnoticed. Because it wasn't immediate as of this second. It was quite a shock that they did that. Although I actually think it was the right decision. If you're going to do it, pull the plaster off and get it done. But I would love to hear from any of your listeners as to whether they did have to do a lot of renegotiation. But ultimately, we haven't seen the collapse of those deals or the private rental sector for that matter, because I believe it remains roughly unchanged in terms of number of landlords. Um, so it's interesting how people want to paint the negative because for some reason that's the clickbait, that's the headline. And in reality, our market, the property market, sales and lettings is remarkably robust.
I agree. Just before we go, that there was a certain budget in Q3, Q4 of
Yeah,
2022.
truss.
Yeah, that was the effect. And if you again, that's again, we just have a quick look there. That's the trust budget. Always ignore the crystal spikes. That's just because the numbers are so low. That the base level is around that 20 to 30, 20, 25 mark. That was trust. Might move that graph a bit to the left actually at Christmas when I've got a bit of downtime, just because that might be interesting to see. Right, let's move on. Net sales, gross sales less fall throughs equals net sales. White line there is the number of net sales. And to say that we are ahead of 2021 and we are ahead of the 2023 and we are ahead of the average of 17 to 19. I mean, you would never dream of that, would you?
I think as I say, the market's been extremely
No,
robust.
a year ago or 18 months ago, to say that we are ahead of on net sales compared to last year, or no, not last year, 21, which was a cracking year.
Yeah, I mean, I think most agents are having a pretty good time at the moment in the sales side of things. I think their difficulty is around the transactions coming out the other end as exchanges and invoices. I think they're sitting in their pipeline for, ridiculously high amounts of time. And if I was an agent planning 2025, I would be looking at ways of securing better deals, securing commitment from sellers, securing commitments from buyers, and reducing my time between between offer and exchange, because that's what's killing us, along with an inability to sell nearly 50% of the stock. Solve those two problems, the industry, the actual market size could quadruple.
Well, you're absolutely right there, Iain. I mean, you were on stage. You ran the ICG approved not webinar event at Twickenham about a month ago, and we the room came to the conclusion is that if there's a couple of things that all of us could do is number one, get solicitors instructed on listing.
Correct.
Okay. That's a massive one. You're going to cut your sales down something rotten in terms of length of time. And the second one, which is a supplement, is dedicated sales progression. Okay, that's either someone in your organization doing it yourself or not leaving it to the sales neg, because if they're good sellers, they're rubbish sales progressors. I'm making a sweeping statement there. There are always exceptions to the rule, but normally that's the case. Or outsource it to firms like ASAP. Other firms are available, because they're getting sales through in 11 and 12 weeks as opposed to an average of 19 weeks. Put the two together, and if you are hurting with average fees, you will squeeze a lot more juice out the lemon instructing solicitors and dedicated sales progression, either in-house or out-house.
And the other two things that will make a difference are blended fees where vendors have made a commitment up front, and reservation deposits, or reservation agreements, sorry, not deposits as such. Reservation agreements are working well to wheedle out buyers that aren't certain. So those four things are making a huge difference to a lot of businesses now, positively.
Indeed, reservation agreements are getting sales fall through rates in single digits, and the blended fees, which if you want to talk to someone, if you get the chance, go and speak with Ian Preston from Preston Baker. It takes a lot. I've listened to his speech 3 times, and each time my mouth just drops open. It takes a lot to impress me, like I said at the start of the show, and he does. So if you get the chance, go and talk to him. Let's look at year-to-date net sales. We are on 890. Remember, these are your exchanges, ladies and gentlemen. These are without new homes, so we're on 891. We're going to finish the year on about just over 1 million second-hand sales. We have the new homes on top. We'll end on 1.21, 1.23, 1.24. So that's where we'll end up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So we're 6.1% ahead of the 17, 18, and 19, and 17% ahead of 2023. those are your numbers, which again, looking nice and healthy. Any thoughts on that? Or is it just, it's more of the same, mate, isn't it?
It's just it is a hell. What we're showing is a healthy market. It's not a boom, but it's far from being a bust, and it's a very healthy situation. If we'd have said we were going to get over 1 million transactions, or even anywhere near 1 million transactions, excluding new homes at the start of the year, I think most people would have said no, no, no way. And I think there's massive pipelines out there, so I think that number could be shocked if we actually get inertia with the buyers and we do get a bit of urgency, and we suddenly get the mother load of exchanges out the way, and they complete this side of Christmas. That number could actually be higher than most people think. If it isn't, then January we're going to be kicking ahead with a lot of completions, which is going to be great because we start off with a real positive feel cash flow
Yeah,
wise.
because January, February are awful for cash flow for estate agents. Those are the number of properties in agents' pipelines, unit numbers. Again, ruling it off on the 31st of October, 1st of November crossover. The white lines are comparing each 31st of October. And you can see there that the pipelines are nice and chunky. As I said, there will be a drop off. There's, again, look at that. There's getting the pipeline through November and December. That's what's going to be happening. So I suspect that the sales pipeline will be down to like 460, 470 at the end of this month, and probably as low as 430 by the end of December going into Jan. Okay, right. Okay. A couple of extra supplementary graphs, price changes as a percentage of listings and gross sales as a percentage of listings. We've done the properties for sale stock and the number of properties in pipelines. To just remind ourselves that by measuring the pound per square foot, we know what's going to happen to the land registry. So it's the orange line we're following. That's sale agreed, pound per square foot. That matches the land registry with a very, very high tolerance level, 5, 6 months in advance. So just, ladies and gentlemen, always, if you want to know what's happening to the property market, whether the peak or the bottom, just always follow that orange line. If you want to know. And again, in terms of net figures, interestingly, Ian, I know I sent you a text message over the weekend. The sales agreed this year versus the sales agreed in 2023, the average price is 17% higher this year than it was last year, but the pound per square foot is only 2.1% higher. So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is there have been more higher price properties selling this year than there have last year. Doesn't, so
that's been happening for a while in terms of downsizers, the squeeze on cost of living, selling the big family asset to reduce costs. I mean, that's we were talking about that at the beginning of the year in reality, and that's just that washing through. But and it's a great thing for agents because those middle family homes, without going into the uber high end, where it's a bit of a law unto itself, they are bigger fees and they do unlock the rest of the market.
You are so right. Right, okay. That is the end of the first part of the show, ladies and gentlemen. We are now going to move over to the second part where we go to the town of Banbury and we'll have a look at the stats. So, Ian, let's go to Banbury. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for the purposes of this, we are using a bit of kit called Insight. Insight is one of many platforms that the firm 20EA produce, but we're specifically looking at Insight. Insight is Rightmove Plus on steroids with lasers and glitter balls. It looks at the last 5 years plus the year that we are in, and it has so many stats, it is unbelievable. This is absolutely fantastic. Now, the Insight platform, there is a free version that you can have, very limited, mind you. Then there is a paid for version, and you can have it on your town, and then you can move up to the region, and then you can have a national. This is the national one, but the town one has exactly the same features that I'm going to be showing you on your town. I must stress to you that 20EA have given this to me free of charge. However, in return, it's the same stats that I've shared with you at the start of the show. So that's the benefit in kind in the fact that you get to see the stats. If you want this piece of kit, then you just contact 20EA and ask them about insights, and they'll give you a demo. I'm not going to talk about prices. I do know what the prices are. I think they're very reasonable for a town, but do check them out. If you are an agent who are suffering from overvaluing, or agents with cheap fees, and you're a damn good agent, this is independent data that you can use to prove to homeowners that you are the better estate agent. Right. So, Ian, let's go and have a look. So we are looking at the beautiful town of Banbury and the surrounding areas. So for the purposes of this, the postcodes are OX 15, 16, and 17. Okay.
Yep.
We are looking at from the 1st of the 1st, 2019, all the way through until the 24th of November, 2024. And we're going to start off with the top of the shop, where we're going to be looking at new listings. And we can see here, let's start off. So the average price is 407. So ladies and gentlemen, if you've not watched the show before, I just keep talking, then Ian jumps in whenever he spots something that's of interest. Right, let's go and look. So Round and Jackson seem to be the agent of choice there, and their market share seems to be growing slightly from an average of 8 or 9% to somewhere in the order of around 12%. And it looks like they've had a damn good 2024 with an uplift there. So well done to Round and Jackson in Banbury there. Let's go 351 compared to the average of 407. So I'd assume that Round and Jackson are lower to middle market there. Let's have a look. Interestingly, we've been doing this show now for 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, and it's only ever happened twice where the number one volume agent is also the number one in the upper quartile. Okay. If you want to know where one of them is, the best is Wilkinson Grant in Exeter. Superb estate agent, and go and look at their Facebook campaigns and just basically immerse yourself. It is very, very rare to be number one in both sectors under the same brand. Stamborough Powell, let's have a look at those. So they're at 309. So again, they seem to be in that lower middle range, and they seem to be pretty consistent around that 10% mark, going as low as 5 and as high as 15. Let's go and look at Anchor and Partners. Again, pretty stable there around that 10% mark, going as high as 5. Very similar, those two. Let's go look at Chancellors. Again, they tend to be around that 6 or 7% mark. Let's go and look at Hamptons. So there's no one really growing here, Ian, isn't there? Hamptons 606. We'll look at the upper quartile in a second. Connells. Hortons, now they're self-employed agent. They seem to be growing. Well done, guys. So that's around the 5% mark, and now they're hovering around the 10. So that's good. Bairstow Eves. Must be part of the franchise network. Mark David. Again, some spikes there. So again, I'm not sure what they are. Sometimes it's New Homes, but we switched New Homes off on that one. Let's go and look at Northwood. Okay, pretty steady. Maxwell's.
No one really moving in either direction of any particular
No, there isn't, is there?
significance.
Fine and Country. Again, they're upper quartile. We'll look at the upper quartile in a second. PB dropping. Although, again, following the national trend, PB are pulling their socks up a bit, ladies and gentlemen. They are still the biggest estate agent in the UK. Savills, again, I'd expect big numbers there. Pointings. Gatekeep, we'll go down to number 20. Stratton Parker, Round Jackson, Century 21, and Fisher German. Right, let's just look at the upper quartile, ladies and gentlemen, see who the big boys and girls are. 407, 12,000. So let's have a look. Okay, so the upper quartile, I mean, again, 600, does that bring it in? So that just shows there's not a huge upper quartile market there. They're all posh houses. So we'll have to probably look at the upper decile. So we'll keep it at 750 and above, and it looks like Hamptons and Savills and Fine and Country are slugging it out there for that market. We'll just have a quick look.
The brand you'd expect in reality.
Yeah, no one seems to be pulling any trees up, mind you.
Nope.
Okay, again, the numbers are quite low here, so when we're getting here, so they are going to be a bit spiky. Okay, good stuff. Right, okay, that's new instructions. Let's now move on and look at sales. So we can see here that in terms of the numbers, The order that we put them in is in new instructions. We are looking at the 25th of November 23 to the 24th of November 24. So the agents there's your market share, which again was very similar to what we saw in the previous screen. And there's your number of sales. But to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, there's something a lot more important here. And it's these four columns here: exchange and withdrawn. You see, if you add up the exchange number to the withdrawn number, you'll get 100% on both. Why is that important? Because at the end of the day, we are paid to get properties exchanged. So you get paid and the homeowner and the home buyer gets.
Chancellor's numbers stick out there, don't they? Because I mean, they're going to hate me for saying this, but it's pretty obvious that they overvalue stock looking at those numbers.
That's quite an assumption, mate. We are going to be looking at the overvaluing scores in a second, but let's get there. Let's see first. Okay, right. Okay. So a property only leaves an estate agent's books for two reasons. The first one is she exchanges, or the second one it withdraws and you don't get paid. So immediately, Round and Jackson in the last year, 72%, and Anchor and Partners also at 72%. Those are really, really exceptional numbers. The average,
particularly over that sort of volume as well.
yeah, normally the volume agent suffers.
They do. But these guys obviously know how to do it at volume and do it properly.
I mean, look, the average in the town is 54%. Okay, so if you're above 54, then you are above the average. You know, Horton's at 59, which are a self-employed model, and Stamborough and Powell at 60. Really good chances. Yeah, you say, 43 is on the lowish side. Connell's at 52, Hampton's at 57. So here this is that Round and Jackson and Anchor and Partners, you have a 72% chance of getting moved if you sell your house with them, compared to other agents, which are at much lower figures. Just take the bigger numbers with a slight pinch of salt. Let's just have a quick look at the price range here, ladies and gentlemen, because bigger price properties do have a lower chance of selling. That's just the way the market works. So you can see here, 39%. So in the upper quartile,
I don't think you've ticked all of those, Chris. I think you've only ticked.
No, that's just is a bug in the system. But basically,
because it's in between, right? Okay.
Yeah, you only have to click once, and look, you can't. It doesn't. There you go. So you can see here that the exchange ratio of Savills is at 48. This is the upper quartile, million up above. Fisher and German at 30. Well, you can see the numbers there, ladies and gentlemen. Everything good to see. So it just shows you that it looks like the Savills is the better agent when it comes, if we're measuring by the context of exchanges to listings. Let's get back to the normal rate here, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so I would be concerned with a high withdrawal rate. Let's just look at fall throughs. So I've got Round and Jackson at 18%. The average is 21, which is a really low fall through rate for this part of the world. I would expect nearer late 20s. So 18, 26, 20, 19. Okay, that is quite low. Everyone's nice and tight on that one. So that let's see if anyone's doing price changes. 32, 42, 40, 72. Bloody hell. Chancellors. Okay, Ian, let's see if you're right. Let's see if we have got overvaluing here. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are not criticizing. We are looking at cold, hard facts. Okay. Right. This is looking at all the properties in the last. So we've got the number of new instructions, but what we are really looking at is all the exchanges that have taken place in the last 12 months. And when a property comes on the market, 20 EA Insights will do an automated valuation model, like a Valpal figure. Other AVMs are available, and it will store that figure, and then it will see what you put it on the market for. Okay, and on average, Round and Jackson overvalued by 0.42 and 0.37 above what the AVM model. That is nice and tight. That's beautiful to see. There you go. You said Chancellor's overvalue. According to 20 EA on Insights, we're not criticizing. 2.99. You are absolutely right, Ian. You are a mind reader. Okay. So those are all the stats, the overvaluing stats. There's nothing wrong with a bit of overvaluing, but I'm just loving the fact that Round and Jackson and Anchor Partners, it just shows you, ladies and gentlemen, if you price them right, you sell them and you get paid. Fantastic to see. Right. What did you then achieve off the original asking price? Okay, so Round and Jackson are achieving 3.79% less than the original asking price, and Anchor's 4.62, Chancellor's 5.64. Okay. So therefore, they are overvalued by 2.9 or 3%, and they're being dropped down on 5.64. Now they're getting very, very similar figures for their prices. So if you take one away from the other, you'll get a net figure. Now, interestingly, a lot of people don't like percentages, so we apply that into pound notes. Okay, so if everyone put on a £450,000 house, what would each agent get? Now, Hortons are in the top 5 or 6 there. They're the good. They're getting most for their property. So Hortons could say, Mrs. Miggins, I will get you. If you look at the difference between, say, Hortons and Stanborough Powell, I will get you an extra £5,000. Now, what I would say is this: I know some of the bigger agents in this agency here will have this bit of kit. Actually, hold on a second. Have you noticed that Round and Jackson is so actually Round and Jackson must have a sub office, and normally the computer does meld them together. So Round and Jackson doing really well there, aren't they? Have we got a different Round and Jackson? There must be a different one there.
Are the
Okay.
two physical? Well, one's called estate agents and one's called
Yeah.
just
That
on this for the
sometimes there's
sake of this.
anomalies in the system where normally they should amalgamate the brands together, but that was obviously sit through the net. Um, Yeah, I mean, but this is a comeback. Hortons could say we'll get you 5 grand more than Stanborough Power, and here's independent evidence. So this is nice and tight. But what chancellors? This is what's telling me, and I'm not criticizing you, chancellors. Is this your overvaluing isn't costing your vendors that much, but it's costing you a couple of grand, but you are not being paid. Look, you're only being paid on 43% of the houses you list. Just think if you valued correctly, you'd be paid on nearly double.
Yeah, I
Double.
mean, basically,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't understand the business model. But to be fair, I'm not necessarily. I mean, you might not be criticising, but I am. The numbers are overwhelmingly there to be criticised. You can't come away from it. But is that a leadership issue? Are these guys getting trained properly? Are they hiring the right level of people? Are they training them, or are they just letting them get on with a process that is? It's like a sausage machine that's got leaks all over it, isn't it? They're chucking stuff in at one end and it's just not coming out as invoices. But they're damaging they're damaging the reputation of the industry and or all those people that meet with them and believe them and take on board the conversations. They damage the chance of those people being a mover in our marketplace.
It's like estate agents. Some agents are more interested in getting the listing than getting paid. Weird, isn't it? Never mind. Let's move on. Right, let's have a look at the different agents and see how quickly they're shifting their houses. So we can see here the blue line is the number of properties, sorry, the number of days it takes to achieve a sale, and the pinky line is the number of days it takes to get a property through to completion. So you can see here, chances again, sorry to pick on you guys, is that you're taking 124 days to sell, which means that your new instruction to completion date is 247. I mean, the average number of days it takes to get a property through from sale agreed to completion is 116 days. Okay, so you can just compare how well you're doing. So everyone's very, very similar or very similar in terms of that. Okay. Yeah, again, let's just remind ourselves who the big agents are. Round and Jackson and Anchors. So there's Round and Jackson. There we go. 68 days. Again, pricing well. Again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, if a property takes less than 25 days to achieve a sale, its chances of it subsequently exchanging are 94%. This is whole of UK stats from, okay? If a property takes more than 100 days to achieve a sale, that sale has a 56% chance of going through to exchange. So not only are chances overvaluing, which means their properties are taking longer to sell, when they do sell, they're falling through a lot more. I mean, again, let's just remind ourselves, fall through rate, well, 16%. No, so that's not being married here, but this is a national stat. And again, that just shows you price them right, you'll get them sold, you're more likely to get them sold, and you'll get paid on more. Okay. Right, let's move on to lettings, Ian, and then we'll round it up. Okay, so looks like stepping stones are the big boys and daddy-os and girls, and nice growth there. Finders keepers, Northwood, Standard Power Open Rent. Let's see if they're growing. They are from around 4% up to around 15%. So if we took the last year, we can just see. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, if you, as Iain rightly said, the number of rental properties in the rental system today is actually 170,000 more than it was 4 years ago. Now, if you ask most agents, they've probably lost 15% of their property stock. The reason being is they've gone to open rent. Open rent is the biggest challenge that estate letting agents have at the moment, and it's because we are really rubbish at showing landlords our value. They just all we do is ring them up with problems. Okay, let's just go back. Standard Powell, chancellors. If there are any letting or estate agents watching this show and they actually want something to attract landlords to them, then please do give me a call, because my daytime job, I know I'm a property, I do this show for fun every week, but my daytime job is that I'm a coach helping letting agents attract landlords to their letting agency by using property data and property market commentary, a bit like what Savills do. So if you want some great commentary on the Banbury property market and you want to attract vendors to you and also landlords, then do give me a shout, because I can only work for one agent per town. I don't have a client in Banbury, but if you do want to be able to turn that, if you are losing listings, then do give me a call. Yeah, just nice and easy.
How well do you think the lettings community has understood that the biggest threat is open rent, rather than all the other legislative stuff, the renters reform bill and that? Because a lot of people talk to me and say, how do I take advantage of the renters reform? How do I do this? How do I acquire a business? How do I sell a business? No, very few people will ask, well, how do I overcome loss of stock to open rent?
I think most of them don't realise they're losing it, because no landlord is going to turn around and say, I'm leaving you and I'm going to put it onto open rent. Okay, so I think that's the bit. And again, I think we're very blindsided by that. We're very blinkered. Why can't they see it? Well, see, the reason everyone ran around like headless chickens with purple bricks is because the adverts were in your face and it wound people up.
Well, yeah, it's very visible. The difference here is, though, open rent are letting the properties.
Yeah, and there's no open rent boards, there's no adverts. It's just it's like a silent killer. And if you look at the national stats, they are growing something absolutely rotten. It's just, and what you've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, I'll just keep.
Chris, do you think, just play devil's advocate a little bit, that agents are using open rent to put their stock on to get inquiries?
Why would they when they're still paying for it on Rightmove?
Well, maybe they're not. Maybe it's just another avenue to put properties on. I mean, I do know of agents that are on open rent with their stock more selectively, particularly the slightly higher stocks. There's no doubt open rent are growing. There's no doubt open rent are the biggest threat. But if you are putting your properties on open rent, you are fueling your enemy's presence.
It only makes sense if you're putting on open rent, is if you're removing yourself from Rightmove, and the number of agents that are on lettings books is almost identical. I'm just trying to find a graph for you at the moment while I talk. Is almost identical this year as it was last year, as the year before.
Yeah, I think people are trying it. They're going on it to see whether do they get as many inquiries? Is it an alternative to Rightmove?
But again, let's talk this through. Is there a lack of letting leads, as in tenant leads? No, there's not. You don't need more tenant leads. You need more landlord leads. Yes, we all have anecdotal evidence of the odd agent swapping over, but let me just show you the sort of size that we're talking here. And I've found the graph that I'm talking about, Iain, so I'm just going to pull that up. Hold on a second. There's Zoom. Okay, here we go. Okay. So you can see on the graph there, let's just zoom in a bit there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is 14,000 letting agents in that purple bit. Okay. That's Foxtons. That's Leaders Romans. That's Dexter's. That's Lomond. Orange there is open rent. No, this red here. Okay. This is the scary bit. 20EA say 51%, 52% of those properties. This was what previously on the market with a high street agent because they can track the address. Look at the size of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, when leaders Romans are supposedly on the market for many millions, mega millions. Okay, and everyone's running, like there, and they think that look, this is it. This is the killer. If we are not proving we're worth, we're not talking to our landlords. All we do is ring them up. We're like the swan, where we're all graceful and we're all running like the swan, busily under, and all we do is ring up landlords with problems. I think, well, all I need is to whack it on right move. We need to prove our worth. We need to sit down with. When was the last time we sat down with your landlords and had a chat with them? Bring in. Let's look at your portfolio. Let's look at what's happening. How are you attracting landlords to you in the first place? And you should be doing it in two ways. Number one is talking about the property market, and number two is put the fear of God at them about the 170 pieces of legislation, because most of them aren't. And if you're not, why are you not going to get the land registry certificate? Remember, that's going up to £7 next year. Why are you not going to get the land registry certificates and then find, how do you then, with the land registry, how do you then find the contact details? Again, if you go to YouTube and type in London letting agents, and on my channel, I've done a video, I did it about 5 years ago, and how you can find the contact details of a landlord free of charge, even without using the land registry. Okay.
Good tip, Christopher. Good tip.
There you go. Okay. Also, if you look on that, there's a wonderful new website called Prop Out, PROPALT. I'm not involved with them. I don't get any kickbacks. You can pull up a map, Ian. And I'll just show this to you now. Hold on a second. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Here we go. Give me a second. Hold on. Canva. 2 seconds. I'm nearly finished, ladies and gentlemen. Right, and here we go. So, share screen. So this is a screenshot of Prop Alt, and all the green ones are buy-to-let properties. And you can click on that, and it tells you who the owner is, the name of the firm, free of charge. You can then put that firm into Companies House with the name of the firm, and then it'll tell you where the landlord lives. It will also tell you what other properties they own. So you could find that this landlord owns that one, and that one, and one on the other side of town. What you could then do is produce a report on their landlord portfolio, and hey, you could go and deliver it.
Who's behind Landlords on Tap, Chris? Who's the power behind this?
So the website is Prop Out,
Prop Out.
PROPALT. Okay. And you basically pull up a map of your town and you say, give me all of the buy-to-let properties. Now, these are the buy-to-let properties that are owned by companies. Now, a lot of people don't put them through limited companies, so these don't be brought up, but these can be. And then you can track where they are. And then you go to, you don't even know buy-to-land registry. You put the details into Companies House, and then when they put them into Companies House, you can then find out where they live. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be doing. We're just rent collectors and ring landlords with problems. They say, well, I don't need to pay you 10% for that. But if you be active with them, do market analysis, you'll be absolutely fine. Right. Okay. I think we're there on the show, mate. Final words for you.
Look, I think from the estate agent's perspective, we're in a very good market. I think we've got a very good period ahead of us. Yes, there will be the natural sort of slow up a little bit. I don't think it's going to be anything like the normal drop off, particularly in sales activity. But we're set fair. But just please take advantage of the opportunity that you've got in front of you in terms of the amount of stock you've got for sale. The fact that there is a willing buyer base with readily available funds, you just have to match the two, probably by better pricing, better marketing. And in the letting space, make sure, yes, of course, you've got to deal with the various legislative changes and the taxation changes, but be aware that your biggest enemy is having a pitch that overcomes the alternative of open rent. It's by far the single biggest thing you could do is to have a valuation pitch and marketing messaging that adds strength to your story over using the alternative.
Indeed. And I would actually say that you actually need to do that pitch to your existing landlords because they're the ones that are going to bugger off.
Yes, you need to be talking to them and getting to meet them and going seeing them. Yes, absolutely. They're the ones that are being squeezed with their mortgage coming off fixed rate. Yes, you could put the rent up, but if they're being squeezed, they need to reduce their costs unless you can show them why that's dangerous.
Absolutely spot on, Ian. Ian, thank you for, I think you've been on the show about 5 or 6 times this year. We'll be inviting you back next year. You are certainly excellent value for money. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this, and we'll see you next week for week 48 of the UK Property Market Stat Show.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.